Hey guys! So today's video I'm going to be giving you some tips for interviews. I have thankfully gotten every major job that I have gone to interview for. So these are just some tips and tricks that I've collected, I've noticed, I've researched, I've done throughout the years that have helped me be prepared, get the job. So I just wanted to kind of compile them, put them in a list together for you guys. Just in case you guys are interviewing, especially right now with COVID. I know a lot of people are looking for new jobs or interviewing, and it's a little bit different because most of the things I find are on Zoom. So it's slightly different than going in person, but same concepts. We'll go over each of these points here. I have them written down like I always do. You guys know me by now. I like to stay on task. So I'll be going through them. I have about 10 different tips that I'll be going through that I personally use and I think will be beneficial for you. Most of these tips are for office business positions. So there will be some slight variations, like a person going for a marketing director position versus if you're going to be a coordinator, or if you're going to be a forklift operator, or if you're going to be a teacher. They will vary, but most of the points are very generic and everybody should do. So let's just jump right into it. Point number one is the most obvious: research the company. You don't want to get to your interview or be on your Zoom interview and have no idea what the company is. This is important because even for me, I haven't interviewed for years now. I've been in the same position, but when you are looking for jobs, most people do not find one and just apply to one. You're applying to a bunch. So you need to be prepared. So make sure you know the company that is interviewing you, do some background on them. What do they do? How is this role incorporated with what you'll be doing? Just make sure you know a bit about the company. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to know the founder's middle name and what his parents bought him for Christmas, but you need to know some generals. What does the company do? Look at their social, look at their website, just Google them, see if there's any major things that come up. Like, is there a press release? Did they recently acquire a company? Just things like that are helpful to know, and it shows the interviewer that you spent the time to research the company, and it shows your interest. So that one's very important. One, research the company. The second one is for in-person ones, so when the world is normal. Always bring a copy of your resume. This may seem kind of like they have it or I sent it or it's a digital world, yes. But most of the time when you go to interviews, the person interviewing you has printouts, whether their assistant or someone else or even them printed out a bunch of resumes of the people that they're talking to. Sometimes they don't have it and they'll be like, oh, well, let me, you know what I mean? Instead of having them try to find it, if you have it, you look more prepared. Plus, then if you have a copy, if they already have their copy, they don't need it, you have a copy, and you can kind of go along your resume with them, just so you know what part they're on. You can kind of elaborate. Me, sometimes I even have like a second copy for myself that I make some notes on of like something that I want to bring up based on a certain experience point. So always bring copies of your resume. It's always helpful. Number 3 is dress the part. There is certain looks, especially when you're in the business world, you know, of what you need to wear. There's always that expression, dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have. But specifically for your interview, make sure you dress very professionally. There's some companies that are kind of more casual, wear jeans. For me, my personal opinion is the interview, still dress up. It's an interview, it's kind of a sign of respect, and it shows them kind of a certain image of yourself. I've always dressed very business formal, you know, like a blazer, just whatever that looks like for you. For the interview process, I always have dressed up to a certain look, just because it kind of ties in the whole theme of an interview for me. Next one would be prepare questions to show that you're interested. Sometimes I've done this, even if I don't necessarily, because you know at the end of interviews they're always like, did you have any questions for us? Along the interview there may be some points that are brought up that you may want to question later, but I always ahead of the interview prepare at least 2 questions that I may not necessarily even need them to answer, but it just shows that I am interactive and I have thought this through and I've been prepared. Some great topics to also talk about is like the company culture, what type of employee development they have. Some companies pay tuition, some companies have programs, you know what I mean? Like, just see what development they have. Those are great questions because then it looks like you're there for the long term, which is what most companies want. So that would be that point, is to prepare some questions. Number 5 would be practice. I know this sounds silly, but a lot of interviews tend to use the same questions, right? Like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What is a project that was difficult? What do you have to overcome? Google sample interview questions. You can even Google it specifically for that job and practice your answers. And I don't mean to necessarily sit there and script it, but just know the certain talking points that you're going to discuss. Especially for something like, what is your weakness? You want something that is not an actual weakness. Like if you say, I'm always late to work, or, you know what I mean? That's not going to help you. And I hope you're not late for work, especially as an adult. Like, get it together. But I mean, you want something that's kind of like a negative positive. Like, I never stop working. I don't know the cutoff time. You know what I mean? Like, I want to micromanage everything. Like, things like that are bad, but kind of good depending on the position. You know what I mean? So you want something kind of like that to put in there. Point number 6 is to be confident. And I know this is difficult and I know interviews are scary, but think of it this way. Like, they already reviewed you on paper and they want you to come in. So they're already interested to an extent. So calm down. You know what I mean? Like, it's obviously more difficult. It's easier saying it. It's easier saying it than it is to be done. But just be confident. You were brought in because of the skill set or the experience that you have and that interests them. So they already like you to a certain point. All you have to do is continue the flow. You know what I mean? So be confident, because that shows too. If you're very timid or you're stumbling over your words or you have no idea what you're talking about, that will reflect poorly. You need to be confident, especially in what you do, and be able to explain it to a certain extent. Again, depending on what your position is. Point number 7 kind of goes along with that. Pause and think. You do not have to just blurt whatever comes to the top of your head. And some people are better at this than others. But if you have a question, pause for a second, think about what you're going to say, and then say it. Because you want to be cohesive. You want to make it sound like it makes sense, and you want to give the proper answer. And if you do not know the answer to something, don't make something up just to have an answer. You can say, I don't know right now, I can look into it. Or I don't know, but my experience has led me to do blah, blah, blah. Don't just say something to say something, especially because if it's a question related to the job, they'll know that you're bullshitting. So take the second, pause, and then answer it. Collect your thoughts in your head of what order you want to go in, and then present it in a proper way. Don't just like answer it just to answer it. It's not a timed thing. Take your time and explain what you're trying to actually explain. Number 8 that I have here is read the room. This is very important because the type of personality or the type of interview you have will be based on obviously your own personality, but as well as the person. Is it kind of a low-key conversation, or is it like a stuffy by the books? Only because obviously you want your personality to come through, but to a certain extent, you want to read the room. If you're a very funny, calm, nonchalant person, but the person interviewing you is very by the books and very strict and very like, then you're not going to want to be super funny in that environment. You know what I mean? You kind of want to read the room and make it form to benefit them, only because they're the ones hiring, so you want them to like you. Again, to an extent. I'm not saying be fake, and I'm not saying change who you are. I'm just saying read the room. With anything in life, right? If you go into a certain area and you're talking to somebody with any conversation, your conversation kind of flows based on how they act and how you act. Very similar. Just read the room and respond accordingly. The next thing, number 9, be prepared to talk about yourself. And this may seem obvious. You know your experience. Most people spend the time researching the other company. But it is very important that you go through and you mentally note or jot down. I always jot down main accomplishments you've done, main projects you've done, main skills that you have. Because sometimes when you're asked on the spot about a project, your mind may go like a million places or blank. So it's good that you prepare and practice what you have actually done. Another great point that I have is look at the actual job posting and every point of the qualifications or what we're looking for. Have those down and then jot down how you relate to that, so that if it comes up, your language matches, and also you have kind of like a tit for tat. Oh, we're looking for experience in Excel. Okay, well, I do this on a daily basis. That makes sure it correlates, and then it helps you as well. And then number 10 is make sure to add their language into what you're saying, which is kind of similar to the last point I said. But make sure you read their job posting, make sure you go over some of their collateral, like their website, and make sure you incorporate some of their language. That way it will make it seem like it's a better fit. Again, this is not being fake or lying. I'm just saying, if you use their language, they it may tick off some points, because same as like recruiters, right? When they get a billion resumes, a lot of times they just have like a software that will tick off the words that match the ones that they're looking for. It's kind of a similar thing. If you're incorporating their language into what you're discussing, it will make it look like you're a better fit. It will make it look like you know what you're doing more. It will be more relatable to the job, because you may have all the qualifications and you need to be able to dictate to them exactly how you guys would mesh. So that is why I think incorporating their language into what you're selling is an added bonus. But those are my 10 tips. I know, like I was saying, the Zoom world is a bit different right now. So any tips that I have for at-home interviews is obviously same as in person. Show up. I always show up everywhere 10 to 15 minutes early. Zoom is a bit different, but just make sure you have everything ready and tested so that when you click on at the time, you're good to go. Don't show up a minute before turning on your computer and then you'll have issues. Like, make sure you're well prepared, and all you literally have to do is join meeting. Your internet's fine, you're dressed appropriately. Your background is very important in Zoom. Even though it is in your home, you still want it to be kind of a blank slate or something professional, because whether people like it or not, everybody's judged, right? You're judged on your environment, you're judged on what you're wearing, you're judged on how you speak. So in my opinion, I would have something blank. I just use my bedroom here for my videos, just because it's black and gray and white. It's very blank. It's not too distracting. It's not too, super interesting. It's kind of plain, so the focus is more on me. So that's the kind of idea there. That would be my advice for those ones. And just like I said, be prepared. They've already asked you to come in, so there's already some interest. So just make sure you're prepared on them, on you, and good luck. If you are applying for jobs right now, good luck. I hope you get it. If you have any advice, leave it down below. We can always add on, and I will do a part 2 to this soon.